at a stop sign, a fork in the road. Shaking my emotions, looking at my options. Which way to go? It's a moment of decision, an opportunity to do what's right by you and what's best for me.
So maybe I will do just what I know that I should do, even when it isn't really what I'm wanting to. I know there is a way that I can honor you, and so I'm gonna do just what I know that I should do. I've got a reason to wanna think it through. I know for every action there is a reaction. That's nothing new. It's a moment of decision, an opportunity to do what's right by you,
To do what's right by you.
what's best for me. So maybe I will do just what I know that I should do, even when it isn't really what I'm wanting to. I know there is a way that I can honor you, and so I'm gonna do just what I know that I should do.
I'm gonna stop, I'm gonna look, and I'm gonna listen and make a good decision. Yeah, I'm gonna stop, I'm gonna look, and I'm gonna listen, yeah, and make a good decision.
I will do just what I know that I should do, even when it isn't really what I'm wanting to. I know there is a way that I can honor you, so I'm gonna do just what I know that I should do. So maybe I will do just what I know that I should do, even when it isn't really what I'm wanting to. I know there is a way that I can honor you, and so I'm gonna do just what I know that I should do. Do just what I know that I should do. Do just what I know that I should do. So I'm gonna do just what I know that I should
And we're on. Hey everybody, I'm Jacob. You ever think about what life was like before the remote control was invented? Just imagine, every time you wanted to change the channel, you had to actually get up, walk over to the TV, and change the channel dial.
We'll be right back after these messages. Don't touch that dial.
I should appreciate you more. But we're not here to talk about remote controls. We're here to talk about self-control. Self-control is choosing to do what you should even when you don't want to. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had a remote control for ourselves? An actual self-control? That way, if I was ever feeling bored or something, I could just, change the channel. Like, all right, you varmint. You've met your match. I'm the fastest channel switcher on this side of the Colorado. Sure is lonely out in space. Fall back. Picks his target. Pass! Sorry, Miss Ackerman. Dance party!
I'm the Turquoise Avenger.
I knight thee! Can't stop dancing! Can't stop dancing! Things are getting out of hand! Scalpel! Whoa! Finally, I had to take the batteries out. That was trouble. In today's story, we'll find out that when you lose control, trouble is exactly what you'll get. We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. Now, for an amazing story, inspired by the book of Proverbs, chapter 25, verse 28.
Theo Brickman knew he had the perfect name. He had been building brick creations ever since he could wrap his chubby baby hand around a mega brick. Brick! As Theo grew older, he moved on to brick building kits, but soon his imagination raced ahead of any building kit or building instruction set you could ever buy.
I want to build Jupiter, all of Narnia, a ginormous flying pizza.
Theo even got a job at a brick building store so he could spend his days surrounded by bricks. So he was overjoyed when he found out that a brick building TV show called Brick Bosses was going to be holding auditions in his town.
I'll get on the show for sure.
On the day of auditions, several dozen other people showed up along with Theo. He jostled up to the front for a good spot.
I bet not one of them can beat me.
A tiny lady with iron gray hair eyed him sharply as she addressed the competitors.
I am Althea Legoami, and I shall be judging you on originality, technical skills, and overall conduct. There is a break room if you need a snack or rest, but no food may be eaten here in the brick room. You have 4 hours to build anything you can imagine. Begin!
Theo raced to the side of the room where racks and bins holding every kind of brick stood.
Hey, you stepped on my foot.
You snooze, you lose.
Theo shoveled bricks into his bin.
I'll build a castle, one with turrets and towers and a wonderful moat filled with shiny brick water.
Theo got right to work. Soon, the walls of his fortress began to rise. He designed decorative windows and lofty balconies.
Ooh, I should build a dragon to attack my castle.
As Theo snapped red and gold bricks together to form his dragon, another competitor looked over.
Is that supposed to be a horse? Can't you see I'm not done with it yet, you blockhead?
As time ticked on, Theo realized he was hungry, so he decided to take a quick snack break.
Just 1 minute.
But in the break room, he discovered his favorite treat of all time.
Dill pickle and pizza potato chips.
Theo downed one whole bag. He desperately wanted another, but the clock was running down.
I'll just sneak this back into the brick room with me.
Theo finished his dragon between stuffing pizza chips in his mouth. He tried to hide the bag, but when he looked up, he noticed Althea spotting a trail of chip crumbs that he'd left behind.
She probably doesn't know that was me.
With just a half hour to go, Theo's castle and dragon were nearly complete.
I need a wall around the moat. Yeah, with a really cool pattern.
So, Theo began snapping together an elaborate wall. But the wall simply would not behave.
Gotta treat this piece apart.
Pry as he might, Theo could not separate two small plates. Frustrated, Theo hurled the locked pieces across the room. They narrowly missed the head of Althea Legoame, who was examining another competitor's project. She turned her head sharply to look in his direction.
I don't think she saw it was me.
As the final minutes ticked away, Theo fumbled to finish his wall.
Time is up. Wheel your creations up to the judging stand.
Theo glanced around, as he wheeled his work table up to the front.
Mine's the best!
But as Theo slid his table into position, it bumped over a crack in the floor. A big section of his perfect wall tilted and then crashed down.
No!
It was too late. Time was up, so Theo was not allowed to repair the wall.
No fair.
Theo sulked all the way through judging. When the names of the winners were announced, Theo's was not among them.
What a waste of time.
Theo stormed up to Althea.
So, it was my castle wall, right? If that hadn't fallen, I would have won?
It wasn't the castle wall, actually. It was your wall.
What?
Part of your score was conduct. How you acted and followed the guidelines and treated others throughout the audition.
But I built the best creation.
You do an excellent job of building without instructions, but it's pretty hard to go through life without instructions. My favorite guide for life is the book of Proverbs.
You mean in the Bible?
Exactly. Proverbs 25:28 says, "A person without self-control is like a city whose walls are broken through."
Oh.
If your own wall was in good shape, I think you would have won today and caused a lot less trouble for yourself and the people around you.
But that's not... What if I do? Work on my self-control wall, I mean.
Then you should definitely audition again next season. I think you'll have an excellent chance.
Thank you. I think.
Theo was deeply disappointed not to be chosen for this show, but as he was waiting for the bus to take him home, he downloaded a Bible app and tapped his way to Proverbs. Yep, maybe it was time for some life-building instructions.
One of the wisest people ever, King Solomon, wrote this: "A person without self-control is like a city whose walls are broken through." People used to live in cities with walls around them to protect themselves from their enemies. So, if there was ever a hole in the wall, it meant trouble. You may not have ever lived in a city with a wall, but you can imagine what it would be like if there was a hole in the wall of your home. Ma, there's rain coming through the hole again. And there's a tiger. Huh. Oh, tiger, Ma! Walls are there to protect us from harm. When we lose control, it's like those walls are broken through. And that can mean trouble. When you're not controlling yourself. Can't stop dancing! You're not paying attention to the things or people around you. And that's when things get broken. And when you or other people get hurt.
Oh, fall back.
Picks his target. Pass! Sorry, Miss Ackerman. Oops. So, here's the one thing to remember today. When you lose control, it can cause trouble. But I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. If you really want to control yourself, you're gonna need some help. Here's the good news. Self-control is a fruit of the Spirit. That means when you put your trust in Jesus and follow Him, the Holy Spirit will be there to help you keep control. Because control is something everyone needs. It's okay. It's fixed now. Oops. Well, I reckon it ain't then. Time to ride off into the sunset. Partner. Come on, Bessie, let's go! Yeah!
I want to be rich.
I want to be cool.
I want to be pretty.
I want to be successful.
I want to be cool. I want to be powerful.
I want to be rich.
I want to be popular.
I want to be clever.
I want to be successful.
I want to be pure.
I want to be heartbroken.
I want to be merciful.
I want to be humble.
I want to be hungry.
I want to be gentle. I want to be a peacemaker.
I want to be persecuted.
Just be.
Hello, people. My name is Benjamin. Thank you for being wherever you are today. I'm glad you are where you are. Now, I want to start with a little question. Did any of y'all share a room with a sibling growing up? Or should I ask, do any of you share a room with a sibling today? Let me see your hands. Yep, okay, got them. Yep, I see you. I see you over there. Y'all are awesome and brave. I love you, and I'm sorry. Now, I didn't have to share a room with a sibling growing up. I have 3 older sisters, but I did share rooms with people in college. In fact, the first couple of years of college, I was assigned a roommate. I didn't even get to pick them, all right? And they were there all of a sudden sharing a room or a small apartment with me, and there were times when it was the worst. For example, if you're a neat person and they're messy, that's a disaster, right? If you like to go to sleep, but they like to stay up, that creates some difficult challenges, am I right? If you want to listen to hip hop while you get ready, which I do, but they love country music, people, that can create a bit of a problem. And I'm just sorry if I hit any wounds for those of you who share a room right now. But I remember growing up in a trailer, lived with my parents. I didn't share a room, but we had a very small house. Dreaming of the day my parents would be able to afford a house that was big enough to give us a little space. But y'all, that never, ever happened. Maybe you feel the same way about your room situation, or maybe for you, it's something else. Maybe you're thinking, man, I cannot wait to have a car of my own so I don't have to hitch a ride with other people. Maybe you're thinking, I can't wait to have the independence to go on a trip with my friends. Maybe you're thinking, I can't wait till I'm old enough to move out of here, get a dorm of my own, get an apartment of my own, just get out of this place. See, part of being in high school is becoming your own person. You develop hobbies of your own. You develop a style of your own. You develop thoughts about your future that are your own. At the same time, part of growing up is developing a personal faith of your own. It's not about having a counterfeit faith. That's a copy of someone else. Now, with that in mind, I want to clear up one thing. What I'm not saying is a faith of your own equals faith on your own. I'm not saying you don't go to small group, you stop listening to sermons, you skip church altogether. What I'm saying is this: experiencing faith for yourself isn't the same as experiencing faith by yourself. I'm just saying there is a time in every mature person's life when they go from believing what someone else says or copying what someone else does to having a faith of their own, a faith that is personal to them. Having a faith of your own doesn't mean that you never listen to anybody else. In fact, if you want to have a solid faith of your own, you will need to involve other people, maybe even more than you think. Now, when I was younger, most of the Christians I knew were older people. My parents, my grandparents, church people, their friends, and that is until I met Pete. Now, meeting Pete totally changed the way I saw faith. He made faith seem bigger, better, more interesting, and real to someone young like me. I wanted to be just like him. He was like the first cool Christian I had ever met, if that makes sense. I wasn't just trying to copy his version of being a Christian, although I learned a lot from him. He showed me how I could start to live it for myself. Then in college, I met a girl named Cindy who kind of took me under her wing. And for years, we'd meet and talk about how faith worked in areas like school, difficult situations, family. And she knew that when you really knew who Jesus was, it could change how you see everything. And like Pete, Cindy changed the way I viewed faith. And again, as she showed me more about who Jesus was, I learned to see and follow Jesus more for myself. Now then, when I was a little bit older, I met a couple at my church who are a little older than me. Their names were John and Joy, which is just a great name for a church couple, right? I mean, just beaming with joy. And I hung out at their house a lot. And after all, Joy was a great cook, you know? And over at dinner, we talked about things like what it meant to live out a life of faith in God around people who saw things differently and how to, not be like weird doing it. And I learned so much about how to love people and how to have a real relationship with God from John and Joy. They were incredible. And I can easily look at these relationships and see how God used them to help me develop a faith of my own. Now, I think this is true for almost everybody who has a faith of their own. A faith that's not just a copy of the great people before them, but a faith that they live out for themselves. Whenever you hear a story about someone's journey toward God, you always hear about a relationship, not just with God, but with another person. And maybe you've experienced this too. Maybe your journey has involved someone who invited you to church, or invited you to youth group, or invited you to Bible study or a Christian club. Maybe it was someone who helped change the way that you think about God. And this can be someone who impacted you with just one conversation, or maybe someone who impacted you with a series of conversations. Maybe it was someone you watched and observed. Like you just saw how they lived a different way. And maybe one of those relationships brought you here. That's the reason why you're here. Now, to put it simply, the people around us affect our faith. Let me say that again. The people around us, around you and I, they affect our faith. And that's true in both positive and negative ways. Just like the right people can move our faith in the right direction, the wrong people can move our faith in the wrong direction. And you have probably seen that happen. Maybe you have friends who, they used to be all about their faith. Then they started hanging out with a different crowd, and it's not that they're bad people, it's just obvious that their friends are pulling them in a different direction. See, here are the big questions, okay? Track with me. If the people around us have a huge impact on our lives and our faith, how do we find the right people who can help us? And how do we prevent being affected by the wrong ones? And to answer that, I want to start by sharing an ancient piece of wisdom with you. And I'm not exaggerating. In ancient cultures, books were written that contained nothing but wisdom and good advice. And in Jewish culture in particular, those sayings were collected into a book that we now call Proverbs in the Old Testament of the Bible. And even though the advice is old, it's amazing how relevant it is to our lives right now. Okay, so check this out. Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Now, if I were to pick a verse every freshman had to memorize before starting high school, it just might be this one. You don't have to be a Christian for this to be useful to you. It is true for everybody, no matter your age. The people you choose to spend time with will affect your life. Hang out with the wise, you'll become smarter and do life better. Hang out with the fools, and you'll get hurt. Now, we can all think of celebrities who at 15 or 16 or 17 years old seemed to be on a good path, very successful, doing things right. Then something happened and things began to go downhill for them, and sometimes downhill quickly. And if you watch any type of documentary on their lives years later, they almost always say the same thing. They begin to surround themselves with foolish people. The Apostle Paul talked about a similar idea when he wrote to the church in Corinth. And it was a church full of people who had decided to follow Jesus, but they were having a hard time giving up the not so great things they had been doing before they decided to follow Jesus. Things that people around them continued to do. And in the middle of that, Paul said this: do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. And here's what Paul is basically saying. If you want to move in a better direction, hang out with people who want the same thing. That's very simple. The wrong influences will impact you in ways that cause negative behaviors and outcomes. And just as the person who walks with the wise will be wise, the person who walks with fools will be foolish. And see, look, you've probably seen this happen before. Maybe your best friend started hanging out with a certain guy. Everyone knew this guy, was kind of trouble. He was notorious for doing bad stuff, but your friend was like clueless. What was the outcome? I'm willing to bet that your friend changed. How do I know? Well, it's because it's a timeless principle that is absolutely universally true. Walk with the wise and you'll grow wise. But bad company will corrupt good morals. Listen, yes, Jesus calls us to love everybody. Jesus calls us to spend time with people who aren't like us. But that does not mean that we invite foolish influences into our inner circle. Listen, we don't have to date just anybody. We don't have to trust everybody's advice. But this isn't just negative. It's equally as true for people who are a good influence. Now, we go back to the book of Proverbs and it says this, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. See, we don't work much with iron, right? But chances are good that your family has a set of steak knives in the kitchen, right? Over time, those knives get dull. And if your mom wanted to sharpen them, she'd get a stronger piece of metal and strike the two of them against each other. After watching a YouTube tutorial, of course. Listen, the two metals interacting with each other will make the knife sharper. This is also true when it comes to the people around us. Stronger friends make us stronger. Let me say that again. Stronger friends make us stronger. Strong friends make us sharper and better at whatever we're doing, including our faith. They help us develop a faith that's more authentic and less counterfeit, but also, and this is a big deal, that only happens when the real us shows up. We all know what it's like to bring a counterfeit version of ourselves somewhere. We know what it's like to talk in a way or act in a way that's not who we really are. And it is super tempting to be counterfeit in church. I've been there before. Whether you're a teenager or an adult, there's always a temptation to act like, man, we got it all together. We don't need to grow, like we don't ever need any help. But when we do that, the real us misses out on a chance to grow. We need mentors, you and I. We need family members. We need friends to help us be sharper and to help us move our faith from just being a copy of someone else's to being our very own. The real us misses out on the chance to be sharpened and to get stronger. And sometimes it makes our faith feel less real because you and I, we are being less real. And the good news is that the opposite is true too. When you show up as your real, authentic self and you have real, authentic conversations with your friends or your leaders, God uses those to make your faith stronger and more personal. In other words, real faith grows with other people. All right, I'm gonna say that one more time because I want you to catch it. Real faith grows with other people, with the help and support and the authenticity of other people. I believe this is why small groups are such a big deal. Every time small groups meet, they provide an opportunity for you and I to sharpen each other, for you and I to be real with each other. We can challenge each other, we can grow together. Making the decision to show up and be real with a small group every week is like saying, God, I can't create these relationships on my own, but I trust that if I put myself in their pathway, you can use these people to make change happen in my life. And trust me, we need this. You and I need this. Maybe not right now at this particular moment, but there will come a point when life gets confusing, when life gets difficult. There will be a time when your faith feels weak, it feels counterfeit, and whether it's a big decision or a painful mess you find yourself in, you'll want to know that someone else is just a text message away. Look, that's your small group, people. That is your small group leader as well. That's why one of the best things you can do for your life and your faith this week is simply to be real in small group. And I'm not just talking about physically showing up, although I believe that's important. Maybe you need to show up mentally as well. Take a break from the phone. Be all there. Maybe you need to start showing up for the people in your small group by actually hanging out with them at school and not just at church. You've been holding back because you don't know anyone that well, and it makes you feel uncomfortable. But if you want to grow in your faith, man, take a step. Put yourself out there. Maybe you need some one-on-one time. You're dealing with some things that are too difficult to figure out alone. Or maybe you want to take your faith to the next level and you've met someone older who seems like they could help. Today is a great day for you to start a real conversation with your small group leader. And you could say something like, look, hey, I really admire the way you intentionally live out your faith. Look, I could really use some of your input in my life right now. Would you be cool if you helped me kind of figure out my next step? They would love to hear that. Maybe you know someone who could really use some encouragement or some truth spoken to them. And you know it would be great if you encourage them, but you feel like, man, I'm not qualified for that job. Maybe your next step is just to approach that person. Maybe hang out with them. Allow God to use you. And just like you need a place to be real and honest, look, it's possible that someone else needs a faith-building conversation with you in their life. When you show up each week, not only do you get that kind of friendship, but you also become that type of friend for someone else. And maybe it's time, okay? Maybe it's time that you pray. You ask God to open your eyes to how you can build faith in someone else. Now, as we head out, don't miss this. God wants to be close to you. God wants to feel real to you. God wants to be personal with you. That's why God hasn't made it complicated. Instead, God put people around you to help you grow and develop a personal, authentic faith of your own. The same is true for you. The same is true for me. And as we head out today, I want you to think about the relationships that draw you closer to God. Who do you wish you could hang out with more because you want your faith to look like their faith? It's not about us copying their faith. It's about their faith encouraging our faith to grow more. So take a step, okay? Make other people a priority in your faith journey because real faith grows with other people.